Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video I will quickly go over how to create the sprites and the sounds for this Pong project. Once again, this is not an artist version, so everything is going to be very quick and easy and not a lot of thought's going to be put into this. So let's get started right away. So here's all my sprites. I'm going to start with the paddle, fairly straightforward. Now I've gone ahead and I did think a little bit about the size of my sprites. So the size that I've chosen for my paddle, once again, to change the size of a sprite, you click the four little arrows and then you can adjust the size. So for my paddle, and I also don't want to maintain aspect ratio. This is not going to be a square sprite, it's going to be a flat sprite. So I want the width to be 16 and the height to be 48 pixels. Okay, then I'm going to click Edit Image. I'm going to be using my rectangular fill tool. Select both, set the size to 2, and then my two colors, as I said before, were black and white. And there we go. So the paddle is done. That's all it takes to create the sprite. The other thing to make sure is that we set the anchor point to be the center, middle center. To do that, come to the top right corner of the sprite settings and select the middle center. This is important once again because we want the AI system to use this as its point of reference when it's trying to match the position of the ball. Okay, so paddle's done. Let's move on to the logo. So for logo, before I change the size, I'm just going to edit the image and drop some text in here. I like to use the text tool. So let's just go in here, type in the word Pong. And this does not seem to be fitting. That's okay. Let's try again. So let's delete this. Let's use the text tool again. Maybe I can change the size to something like 8 font size. And we can try from the very left hand side. Pong. Perfect. So this is, as you can see, this is very low resolution. And if you don't like this, you will have to make your sprite bigger. I'm leaving it very low resolution because it's an old school game. I'm okay with old school graphics. So here's my text. I'm fine with it. I'm just gonna go to image and auto trim all frames. It just removes all the extra space around the sprite or the image that's not needed. So that's all good. So pedal's done, logo's done. And you can see once I did that trim, you can see that the size of it has dropped from 32 by 32 to 30 and 8. Okay, perfect. And this one, I don't need to do any centering or anything like that. For line, I want to make it a very small line that I can stack many times. So I'm just going to make it a width of 1 and a height about 14. Perfect. And for the actual art, I'm filling it with white color. That's all I need to do. The anchor point is fine where it is. Perfect. Let's move on to let's do the ball next. So the ball, 32 by 32, I think that's too big considering that our paddle is only 64 pixels tall. The ball shouldn't be half the paddle, so let's make it a little bit smaller. I'm gonna go with 24 by 24. There we go. And next thing is I want to draw it. So edit image. Select the ellipse fill tool. That's the bottom section of the ellipse. I'm going to set it to both. That means it has a stroke and a fill. Set the size to 2. Zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole picture. And then drag from the top to the bottom. That creates the ball. Perfect. The ball, just like the paddle, I do want it to be centered. It's got a lot of logic involved in movement and everything. So let's just make sure it's middle centered. And other than that, I think that's all we need for the ball. It's perfect. Now, I want to talk a little bit about collisions. We're not using the built-in physics system this time. We're going to be using just the X and Y positions of things, and there's some collision functions that let us check for collisions, and as well as there's some built-in bounce functions that lets you bounce one moving object against another moving object. And the bounce function can work either with primitive collision masks, so like a rectangle is primitive, or a precise one, which is like every pixel has it's just more precise, and it'll actually check to see where the pixels are colliding and bounce you that way. I think for this project, I'm going to choose the precise version. So let's go to mode, change the mode from automatic can stay, and let's change the type to be precise. Okay, so now we have a precise collision mask on this image. For this to work properly with the paddles, we have to go to the paddles, so S paddle, go to collision mask, and same thing. Instead of having a simple rectangle collision mask, I'm going to change it to a precise collision mask. By having both of these set to be precise, we can use this precise bounce feature, which is one of the functions in GameMaker, to get more precise bounces. So for example, if the ball was to hit at the very corner here, it might not bounce just by changing its velocity. It might bounce in a different way, at a different angle. And this is especially useful if you change, if you want to get more creative and you want to create some more paddles, maybe different looking paddle for player 1 and player 2, you can cut some of the edge off and give it like kind of like a curve, and then you could really control how the ball bounces or where it bounces. I'm not going to do that for now, but that is an option for you guys to do. The last thing is I need to set up the multiplayer and single player buttons. So let's go with this. Let's start with this button. How big do I want this button to be? I do want it to take up most of the screen, so let's, or not most, but a good section of the screen. So I'm going to make the width 256 pixels wide and 64 pixels tall. Perfect. Let's edit the image. So what did I say? I said I need two images in here. I need one that's kind of grayed out and one that's white. The difference is the grayed out one is not focused, the white one is focused, or in focus, I mean. So let's do the same thing that we did before. We're going to draw a rectangle first, set it to both, set a bigger. So I'm setting a corner size of 4 or stroke size of 4. There we go. So I've got the box, and now I want to write some text in it. So you might be tempted to write the text on the same layer. I highly recommend creating a new layer. So you can create a new layer by clicking this button down at the bottom here. It's the add layer button, and writing the text on this layer. So now if I select my text tool, let's change the size to something much bigger. I don't know. Let's try 30. It might be too big. Yep, that's too big. Let's try 24. Sure, 24 might work. Let's just type 1 player. And so here's the thing. So I typed this, and you can see it's obviously not in the right location. I want this to be centered. I can now use the selection tool, select this, and even though it looks like I've got a whole bunch of things selected, I'm only moving the stuff that's on the layer 1. And I can move it in the very center. Perfect. Now that I've got this, I can click it up here, and right click, copy, or you can press Control C, you right click, paste, or Control V. I'll show you Control V. There we go. And now that I have the two images, I'm going to select, let's say this second image. So this is image 0, this is image 1. Image 1, I want to change the color to be gray. So I select the gray color. I select the color replace tool. Click this. Oops. Make sure you have the right layer selected. Click the color, and then it should replace. I have to go back to the other layer now. Click the color of the text, and it also gets replaced. So I've now got a white and a gray. Perfect. So the button is done. I want to do the exact same thing for the other button. So let's just do that quickly. So button 2, resize, had a width of 264. Was it 260? No, 256. 256 by 64. Apply, edit, select the tool, this one, the rectangle fill tool, set the size to 4 and both. There we go, filled up. Add a new layer. There's a new layer button. Select the text tool. It should be set to be the same setting as before. Perfect. I'm gonna go here, set this to 2 player. once again, it's not centered like I like it to be. Select the selection tool. This is rectangle select, lets you select part of the image and move it around. So I've selected it. I move it to the center. And the last thing I need to do is I need to make a duplicate of this image. So select it, Control C, Control V. And then I can select the second one, select the color replace tool, select the color that I want to replace it with, and then change the color of the text and change the color of the outline. Perfect. And with that, I've got all of my sprites fully finished. For my sounds, I've got two sounds here, sound bounce and sound point. I'm going to use the sounds from my previous game, which was the block breaker game. So I'm going to double click, three little dots. I have the same sound file saved on my desktop. If you guys don't, go back to the video about how to find sounds on the internet and get some sounds for this game. Little dots here. Here we go. So sound bounce, I want to use the sound. I think I actually want to use the sound block from my block breaker. And then for the sound point, I'm going to be using sound bounce from my block breaker. Perfect. And save. So I've got all of my sprites and I've got all of my sounds set up. I guess I'll show you guys one more thing, which is setting up the central line, as well as logo in the rooms. So let's just go to room, the rooms that will need this. So the room menu, I know is going to have the logo in it, so sprite logo. So if I go to my assets layer, grab the logo sprite, drag it onto my level. It's very small. Then that's what it should be because we didn't set the size to be big. Go down to the corner. You should be able to drag it out and kind of like set it. And because I have this set up to be 32 by 32 squares, I can leave 3 squares of space here and 3 on here. And it'll be perfectly positioned in the middle. So that's for setting up the logo. And now if I go into my other two rooms, so the multiplayer and the single player rooms, I need to draw a line down the middle. Now, let's see if this works. So if I go to my assets layer, this is the middle, so that's good. So along the horizontal line, I do like the 32 by 32 breakup of the map, but on the vertical line, I don't like it. So I'm gonna maybe set this to, I don't know, 24? No, sorry, 28. If I do 28, then the spacing should be about equal between the lines. I think you can hold down Alt. Yeah. If you hold down the Alt key, you can just kind of run the mouse down and click. I can zoom in for you guys so you can see this a bit better. So all I'm doing is holding down the Alt key on my keyboard and then moving down with the mouse and clicking the left mouse button. Perfect. So I've got the line down the middle of that one. And to save some time, I can actually hold down Shift on my keyboard, select all of these, press Control C. That makes a copy of it. Go on to my other room, which is the multiplayer room. Let me just double check. So single player, yeah, multiplayer. I can paste it, Control V, and it goes in the same spot. And if to double check that it really is the center, you can always count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it is not exactly the center. You might have to move everything over just by one spot. I think that's the, but then there's 13 on this side. Okay, here's a trick you can do. So 32 by 32 is not a good breakup of the 800 pixels that we have across. If I go 16, the center would be here. So I can move everything over to there. And I should do the same thing in this room as well. So I'm going to set this to 16. And here I have not moved anything to the right yet, so let's just select everything, hold down Shift, select everything. The way I'm zooming in is holding Control and rolling the mouse wheel. Oops. And then let's just click and drag. Perfect. So all the assets or sprite assets are now in the rooms. Okay. So that's all you do. We've got the sprites, we've got the sounds, and we've got some of the assets that don't really do anything placed into rooms. So we are good to move on to the objects now. Thanks for watching this video.